All right, folks, this one's critical. Pretty important that we pay attention to it. It relates to Saudi Arabia and Iran. Let me read to you a part of a story here that came out in the Times of Israel, and it's out of Tehran. It says this. It says, an Iranian delegation arrived in Saudi Arabia on Wednesday to pave the way for reopening diplomatic missions as the Gulf rivals prepared to normalize relations 7 years after an acrimonious split. Now, the Iranian embassy's main gate in Riyadh was reopened for the first time in 7 years so that the Iranian team could inspect the premises, a Reuters report stated. It says this, and this is a quote, by the way, coming from the Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman. The quote is this: the Iranian delegation will take the necessary measures in Riyadh and Yadiyah to set up the embassy and consulate general. Pretty amazing that I'm even reading this. It goes on to say Riyadh broke off relations with Tehran in 2016 after Iranian protesters attacked Saudi diplomatic missions following the execution of Saudi Shiite cleric Nimar al-Nimr, one of a series of flashpoints between the longtime foes. By the way, that was a very interesting story when that one broke. It kind of paved way for a lot of things that we're actually seeing happening right now. The story goes on to say the Saudi embassy in Tehran was attacked, its staff were evacuated, and the Saudis then gave Iran's diplomats in Riyadh 48 hours to leave. The Iranian delegation's arrival came days after a Saudi delegation made a similar visit to Tehran on the heels of a historic meeting in China between two governments' foreign ministers who vowed to bring stability to the turbulent region. Okay, first of all, let me say this. What we're seeing happening between Saudi Arabia and Iran is directly the hand of Russia. China has nothing to do with this. China did this at the prompting of Russia. I can promise you that. China is acting as a neutral source between them to make all of this stuff work. But none of this should come as a surprise to anybody. This should not shock anybody. This should not make us go, wow, because what we are witnessing is some pretty extraordinary alliances that are taking place in order to facilitate the storyline that we know is going to happen with Ezekiel 38. Now, I know lately it feels like I've been saying all roads lead to Ezekiel 38, but folks, when we're seeing things begin to materialize in the region, we ought to be talking about them because the Bible talks about it, and understanding the end game helps us better understand where we actually are in this timeline. And folks, it is getting close. Think about it. China is about to become inconsequential. I promise you, they're going to be virtually the same thing as Syria is going to be, and unfortunately as the United States is going to be. But the players coming together here, like Saudi Arabia and Iran, of course, Russia being the common denominator that exists between all of them, these diplomatic relations that are continuing to be restored and strengthened with the Saudi royal family and all of the things that are taking place with Israel, folks, we are going to see Ezekiel 38 manifesting at some point in the near future. And when it does, some of you might be asking, well, how in the world is that going to be if Saudi Arabia literally rejects what Iran, Turkey, and all these other nations, Russia and all of them are doing? Well, yes, they're going to be vocally very upset about what happens, but that comes from a place of them being together. They're not in a place of disagreement. They're all in a place where they're agreeing with one another, and that's why all of this is beginning to make sense. We have not seen the potential of a diplomatic relationship between Saudi Arabia and Iran in almost 10 years, folks, because the first few years leading up to that 2016 event, it was very strained, and I don't know if you could ever call it a normalized diplomatic relationship. Folks, things are changing, and they're changing rapidly. The geopolitics behind this one is significant. We're going to do some more analysis on this. We'll spend a lot more time really talking about the implications of all of this. It's fun stuff because we know it's evidence that God's word is true, and this stuff is great. Pay attention, folks. Look up. Jesus could come at any second. This is awesome stuff. God bless you.